We're here today with the Evansville Wartime Museum with Benjamin Bloodworth. Could you tell us your full name and when you were born?
Benjamin Wayne Bloodworth, February 22nd, 1936.
Okay, can you tell us about something about your family when you were a kid, where you grew up and where you went to school?
Yeah, I grew up on Keck Avenue in Evansville near Chrysler Corporation, and what us kids called the restricted zone down at the end of Keck. They had that all, had guard towers and all that, which did nothing but encourage us to. But Chrysler Corporation rehab tanks and things, and every once in a while there'd be one run down Keck Avenue. And so that's what got me interested. I followed World War II for most of my life. I was intrigued by it.
So, do you remember, somebody told me that lived near there once that when they were a kid, that when they would run those tanks on the track, it would kick dust up and everything would get dusty in the neighborhoods. Do you remember anything like that?
No, I don't remember that. But I do there. Well, the one I was talking about, it came down, actually down Keck Avenue, I guess going down to run these track.
So they ran it right down the street.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we were thrilled about that.
Oh, yeah. Do you ever remember seeing any of the P-47 planes flying over?
Oh, yeah, yeah. And for a short period, as part of my high school, I was in they took us out to mechanic arts at that time, and they had the P-47 motor and all that. So, but yeah, we were quite often.
So in that area, where did you go to grade school?
Henry Reese.
Okay.
Down a couple of blocks.
And then you went to Central High School?
The old
Central High School.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was a good neighborhood for kids, and with all that activity going on, it kept our interest.
Yeah, I'm sure it was an exciting time in the city. So much going on here. Do you ever remember being downtown, like on a weekend when all the soldiers were in town from Camp Breckenridge?
Oh, yeah. The other thing that I forgot to mention back in the restricted area, and you probably know this, but those low buildings that were still there is where they, my understanding is where the ammunition was put together, I guess you'd say, and there were some bunkers that they stored it in. After they took down the fences and everything, all those kids would go in there and look in the bunkers, and there was a pretty good sized lake there too at that time.
Okay.
What did your parents do for?
Well, my dad was a factory worker. He worked at Serval and then Whirlpool, and Mom did work for a while before they were married. She worked at Paul's Castor. But we had other relatives in that area.
The same area?
And my uncle served in World War II. He was a commercial photographer, and he, in fact, he told me stories of, he was stationed down, I think, at Tampa, and they developed the pictures of Omaha Beach and so forth
Wow.
ahead of the invasion.
Wow. Now, your dad worked at Servell. Is that where he worked during World War II?
Yes, and there was another Whirlpool Seeger was in somewhere.
Mhm.
Seeger Sunbeam? Seeger Sunbeam?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
you're right.
Yeah.
I'll be 90 soon, so
Yeah.
memories.
Do you know if your father worked on the wings of the airplane?
He did, at Briggs, over on Columbia Street, I think it was. Yeah, and also, I guess that's about it.
Cool. So, you graduated from Central High School,
Yeah,
and then what did you do after that?
well, I attended some night college and went on into banking as a messenger, and during that time in Florida I went to the University of Virginia and University of Chicago and special banking courses. But, that's about it.
So what bank did you start at in Evansville? Was that your first banking job in Evansville?
Right, as a
Which-
messenger.
Which bank was it?
I was the old, the National City Banks, no longer in existence. But,
Yeah, I had a second cousin, that's where he started too. He probably would have been a little younger. His name was Harold Mann. But yeah, some of the same stuff. So you started as a messenger there
Yeah.
at that bank. Okay. And then you went to school to,
high school,
what positions what was your first position beyond
well,
messenger?
I'm glad you said something, because it brought something back to mind. At National City, I started as a messenger and ended up what we call the assistant cashier, which is the first officer position. But then moved the family to Florida. There's something else you said that triggered the memory. What did you say?
Well, like I said, I had a relative that worked at National City also,
Yeah.
and that was a pretty building, wasn't it? With
Yeah.
their wall had all that wood and everything was part of it.
Yeah.
The basement and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, back in those days they had, I was, at one of the banks, either old or National City, they had a guy sit up on the balcony with a shotgun.
No. The guards carried weapons back there.
Yeah. But there was something else you said that may come back.
Yeah.
So, then you spent the most part of your career in banking in Florida. What part of Florida were you in?
And Fort Lauderdale and Gainesville. And really, it's about an even deal as far as banking here in Evansville and Florida.
Yeah.
But sorry.
So then, after retirement, you moved back to Evansville.
Yes, those are my parents' health issues. But, and it turned out to be a good move for me. It was necessary, but it turned out to be also a blessing from the standpoint of having time with them.
What year was that? What year was it that you moved back to Florida?
Yeah, you're gonna tax my memory there.
In the 70s or the 80s?
Huh?
Was it in the 1970s or the 1980s or?
Yeah, I'll have to think about that.
Okay.
I don't have a pencil and paper.
Yeah, right.
So is there anything else you'd like to tell us that we haven't touched on?
Oh, yeah, there's something about,
Can you talk a little bit about, living in the city down there during the war? Do you remember anything about things being rationed?
being what?
Being rationed? What kind of
Yeah,
things can you tell us about that?
Mom, of course, took care of the ration books and so forth. And it was a time that on scrap drives, newspapers. And there was we lived on Keck, as I said, going that would be north. There wasn't any houses to speak of there, but there was a large barn. And somehow the owner gave permission for all the newspapers and things to be stored in that barn. I don't know what the military used it for. I mean, as far as the newspapers, but us kids would collect. And then the school had scrap drives where you fenced off an area out and you brought, throw it in on, they used to somehow have an effigy of Hitler or something. But the barn, they never could identify why, but it burned down, either by lightning or by kids sneaking in there to smoke cigarettes or something. It was full. What did they use newspapers for? Do you know?
Well, I'm not sure what the military would have done with it. I know they were recycling paper to use in industry like they do today.
Yeah. So to the north of where you live, that area was fairly open and sort of rural, right? So whenever, besides the Chrysler, the ammunition place that was more to the north, farther in that area was pretty, there wasn't a lot of houses or whatever. It was all...
They, I don't know if this is right or not, they called it Ponderella. There was a couple of small ponds back in there. Us kids would go back. But the point that you mentioned, coming back to me, they built dormitory type housing for the war workers over in that area.
Okay.
And as I came home from school one day, one of them was on fire. And I think there was at least one person perished on the fire. But it was an active area with Chrysler and
Did your family have a automobile during those years?
Not during the war.
Okay. Did a lot of walking and riding buses and things like that?
Yeah, some of the healthy things,
Yeah. Did you guys have a garden?
Oh yeah. Most of the neighbors had gardens. And I remember had to flatten the toothpaste tubes to contribute to the, I don't know what they did with that either.
The aluminum? Probably the aluminum in that. Yeah. Yeah. So what year did you graduate from high school? What year was that?
I ended 53.
53.
And while we were away, of course, they tore down old Central. I would have liked to have gone through it again when we came back to town, but it's now a parking lot. Of course,
The gym's still there, right? I think the
The
gym's still there.
YMCA.
that's where my wife and I met, was at a basketball game at the gym.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were married 70 years. Let's see. Back in June of this year.
So is there a big rivalry between Central and Wrights for the basketball games?
And Bossy, yeah.
And Bossy.
Yeah, that was big, a big draw down when they had bad games at that Central gym.
Yeah, I remember going to games there when I was a kid.
Yeah. I don't remember how many people the gym could hold, but at that time it was fully occupied when there was a game going on. But that experience down in there with the guard towers and all that, like I said before, I have an interest and I've followed it all my life.
Now those guard towers I assume they were manned by military personnel.
I guess so. They had searchlights and tall fences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen pictures of them.
Yeah, with doing stuff with the primer and the gunpowder and all that kind of stuff, they had to be very careful.
Yeah.
Just not even for people that didn't need to be there.
I heard as a kid that the roofs of those places were not complete, or they were left to where if there was an explosion, the roof would go off. Whether that's true or not, I don't know.
I think that is true. When you look at, we have some photographs of the plant, and you could see those bins where the explosives and primer chemicals were stored. And they were designed to explode upwards, so if something went off, it would only do maybe one or two of them, not the whole mess.
Yeah. Fortunately, nothing happened that I remember, but sure piqued the interest of the neighborhood kids.
Yeah, I bet it did.
You remember any particular games and stuff that you would play with all the neighborhood kids that you do? Did those change during the war? You said you threw scrap at Tojo and Hitler's picture on the scrap yard. Anything else like that?
No, but we did play war games as a kid. Had to decide who was who, and that was done by drawing either a straw or something.
Okay.
I didn't want to be a Jeff.
Yeah, really proud, right?
But
Were you ever downtown or near the river when any of the LST ships were on the river?
oh yeah, I've been on the ship. Yeah. And, I have an older daughter in Florida. I don't call them kids anymore. They're all above 60. So I'm trying to think of the guy that he died. He was an author here in town.
Mike Wicker?
Yeah. She worked closely with him, and they tried to generate interest in making a film. They had a lady that came down from New York, I think it was, to talk with them, and unfortunately, I think she died before it got, materialized. But Yeah, I've been through the LSD a couple of times.
Do you ever remember seeing one when you were a kid?
Well, not fully. And, you know, you asked if we had a family car. We did it towards the end during the war. I forgot about that. My uncle sold my dad a car, and we'd take a drive and go past where they were doing all the ship work, welding and stuff, and it just lit up, you know, like day, and sparks and all that.
You remember seeing that, so going by at night, they would
Yeah.
have all the lights, and then they'd be working
Yeah.
around the clock and see all the sparks and
Yes, that's right.
everything. That's interesting.
Yeah, and you know, the Greyhound bus station was a busy place then with soldiers, and
Yeah, I bet.
I remember that.
The Elnian Railroad Station was very busy, it sounded like, too, with soldiers.
What station?
The Elnian Railroad Station.
Oh, yeah.
Do you ever remember seeing the canteen, the Red Cross canteen by the Elnian Station?
So, yeah.
The Red Cross canteen? That was,
Yeah, I don't recall seeing that.
okay. Is there anything else you'd like to tell us before we conclude our interview today?
Well, I'll probably remember some things after you leave. But, it was nice of you to come by and hear about my childhood.
No, we appreciate you taking the time to tell us about it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.